Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. Today we are doing something exciting. We are making bruschetta topping in a can. So this is going to be great for nights when we are having a quick appetizer. If you have friends over, you can just grab a can of this bruschetta topping, put it on top of your bread with your feta, and it'll be an awesome snack or any addition to a party. So the first thing that you are going to need for this recipe is about 8 cups of chopped tomatoes, and this can be a tomato of your choice. We did beefsteak because we do like them a little bit better than a plum or a paste tomato, but whatever you like, you can use that. And you're going to do 1 diced Spanish or red onion, 1 cup of dry white wine, 1 cup of cider vinegar, half a cup of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and then we've got 5 minced garlic cloves, a tablespoon of oregano, and a tablespoon of basil. And these herbs need to be dried. We don't want to put wet herbs into our mix because it could cause mold, so just make sure that those are dry when you're putting those in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my onions into my tomatoes, and I'm going to mix that around and make a mix. If you don't like onions on your bruschetta, then you can totally skip the onion. We like it, so I'm going to mix this together, and then we're going to put these into hot sterilized jars. So the onion is mixed in here pretty evenly, and I just wanted to mention making sure that you're chopping your tomato pieces small enough that you're going to fit on that bread. So you could have them a little bit bigger, you could even do them a little bit smaller, but just make sure they're a good consistency for when you're going to put this on top of your little mini pieces of crostini. So now that we've got this, we want to put them into our jars. Now we're going to use jam jars for this, just the 250 milliliters. There's only 2 of us. So when we're doing bruschetta, we're usually just doing like half a loaf at a time. This probably could do 1 loaf if you're looking at like a teaspoon per piece of bread. And if you're having guests and you're doing more, you can just grab 2 jars. So this should yield about 8 to 10 of these little jam jars. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to put these tomatoes into these sterilized jars. Now that I've got our jars packed with the tomatoes, so I left a little bit of headspace at the top because we're going to pour liquid down them, we are going to get our brine started. Okay, so now we're going to make the brine. So we are going to add the rest of the ingredients. So that was your cup of wine, your cup of cider vinegar, your 2 tablespoons of the balsamic vinegar, your half of cup of water, the 2 tablespoons of sugar, your 5 cloves of minced garlic, and then your tablespoon each of the oregano and the basil. And we're going to turn our stove up to a high, and we're going to get this to a boil. Stir it around. Make sure those spices are all get wet and mixed in there, and just kind of stir it around, and then we're going to wait until this heats up and gets to that boil. So now that we've brought this to a boil, we're going to turn our stove down just to a low medium heat because we want it to gently boil with the lid on. Okay, so now I've got the lid on and it's gently boiling, and we are going to leave that gently boiling for 5 minutes. Come in and stir it every once in a while, probably every minute or so, just to make sure nothing's sticking or burning to the bottom. And yeah, 5 minutes. We'll be back. Okay, so at this point we have had our brine on for 5 minutes. I'm just removing this from the heat, and now we are going to funnel the brine over top of the tomatoes. So I've got my funnel here. And now what you're going to want to do, if it's not going down, it's probably packed a little too tight, because we want this brine to be all in the tomatoes and the tomatoes to be surrounded by the brine. So you're going to take a spoon and you're just going to pack it down until the liquid goes down. So yeah, so I've Move that liquid down. And now we're going to take a damp or wet paper towel or cloth, and I'm going to wipe the rim down. And this prevents any debris from staying on the jar so we get a good seal with our lids. And then I'm going to come into our warm lids. We're putting it on the top. And then I'm going to do a band around the top, just finger tight. And we're going to do that for all of them. Now I'm going to water bath them in a stock pot for 10 minutes. 10 minutes for these 250 milliliter jars. And if you were going up a size and doing the 500 milliliter jars, which are, I believe, half pints, then you're going to want to process those for 20. But because we're smaller jars, we can get away with doing 10. So just know when you do go up a size, you're going to want to process them a little bit longer. But for this recipe, if you are using the smaller jars, 10 minutes. So I'm going to get those in there and do that now. So I should say before you put them into the boiling hot water that you actually want to put them in cold water first and then bring the temperature up to a boil, because the tomatoes are cool. The brine isn't really hot enough to put into hot water, and you're going to risk your jars, cold jars meeting hot water, breaking if you don't start with cold water. So submerge them in your cold water and then turn your pot up to high and let them boil. Get them up to that boil, and once they've hit that boiling point, at that point you start your timer. So for these 10 minutes. And there we are. After 10 minutes in that water processor, we have got our feta bruschetta, bruschetta topping in a jar. Thanks for watching. Continue to follow us for more awesome gardening content and canning recipes. Thanks for watching. Bye.